Hello friends, I am Shivaji Bhaskar, Faculty of Russian at the School of Foreign Languages, IGNOU. I welcome you all to this course, Basics of Russian Communication Skills Part 1. As you remember that in our previous modules, we have discussed about the counting in Russian. As we have started from 1 to 30, we will start the counting further. But before that, as a very important exercise, because we need to learn the counting in Russian efficiently, we will start from 1 again. So please pay attention and listen to the pronunciation of these countings of these words properly so that you can also use them in your day-to-day communication. So I will start with 1 again. 1 we call IGN in Russian. So IGN means 1, 2 means 2, 3 means 3, 4 means 4, 5 means 5, 6 means 6, 7 means 7, 8 means 8, 9 means 9 and 10 means 10. This is a very important concept because we actually expect our learners to learn them by heart, because these are certain concepts which you need to learn and use in your daily communication in Russian. So now we will go to the 11. 11 in Russian is 11. Then we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So from 11 to 20 we have also counted, and then let's see how we count 21, 22 and further. So 21 is 21, then 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 and 30. If you remember, in our previous module we have also counted them. That is why we are not going into explanation right now, but we actually recommend you all to note them down in your notebooks so that whenever you have time, discuss it, use it in sentences with your family and friends in order to understand Russian in a better way. Alright, so after 30th, we already know how to have further countings: 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 and then 40. 40 is 40. And then the concept is similar: 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49 and then 50. 50 is 50. And then 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59 and then 60. 60 is 60. Then you have 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69 and then 70. 70 is 70. From 71 to 80, so similar fashion you can count 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 69, 70, and after that 80. From 80, 81 to 90, from 91 to 100. So for 80 we have 80. So 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89 and then 90. 90 is 90. From 91 to 100 you can also please pay attention to the words which I am going to count for you. From 91 to 100 we can use 91 as 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 and then finally we have 100 means 100. So I hope this concept from 1 to 100, since we have counted, Please pay attention, please repeat, have several exercises, please try to make more sentences with the help of these new concepts which you have just learned, and you will find yourself that you are learning the counting in a very easy and efficient manner. Alright, so here we have seen that how do we count from 1 to 100 in Russian. You have also seen there is a very specific pattern where we count from 1 to 10. So we have 1 1, then we have 10 10, then we have 20 20, then 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 and 100. Accordingly, from 1 to 10, when we are adding into 10, or adding after 20, adding after 30, there is a specific pattern which we have already discussed. So now we are going to have certain examples. So here we have seen a question where we are using the expression skolka. As you remember, in the previous module we have used kolka to say how much. So now we are going to ask a question which is using skolka. Skolka vam let? How old are you? And this is a very basic question. You will find using the question almost every day, most oftenly, and since here we are also going to talk about numbers, so that is why it is rather even more important. So the first question is Skolka vam let? How old are you? Suppose if the person is 1 year old, minye ajin god. If 2 years old, minye 2 goda. 3 years old, minye 3 goda. Minye 4 goda. And if it is 5 years, then minye 5 let. So the god changes into let. This is a very basic and important concept while we count. But you can also use as per your requirement. For example, 45 years old, sorak 5 let. For example, 21 years old, 2 ajin god. If 33 years old, 3 goda. So this kind of expression which you can use depending upon the usage of counting the numbers we have done. That is why using the same style of question you can replace it with many numbers as you wish. Alright, now the next question which I am going to ask is Skolka imu let? How old is he? So here we are talking about the person based on the gender. When we use imu, means he. When we use ye, it means she. So the first question I am framing here is Skolka imu let? Means how old is he? If I am going to ask Skolka ye let, then I am actually saying that how old is she? Then you can have the answer based on the usage of imu or ye. Imu ajin god. Imu 2 ajin god. Imu 3 ajin god. Imu 4 ajin god. Depending upon the number you wish. And for ye, we have to use ye, but rest of the sentence would remain same. Ye 3 goda. Ye 2 ajin god, and like that. So imu or ye, we can use 2, 3, 4 goda. For 1 we use god, for 2 we use goda, for 3 goda, for 4 goda, but for 5 we use 5 let. So the god changes into let, and that is why we have imu or ye 5 6, and it can go further 20 let. But if it is 21 years old, 20 ajin god, 22 20 goda, and like that. So here we have seen the usage of skolka, and we have used as vam, imu and ye, as these are personal pronouns in a particular case which is known as dative case. You will be learning about that case in detail in a dedicated module. However, before that, let's pay attention to these constructions. So we had skolka vam let, then you can, as per your choice, use whether the person is 5 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old, 33 years old, and so forth, and changing according to the gender or the singular or plural form in this case. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the more constructions we have. For example, we have Ему 21 год. He is 21 years old. We can also replace it with Ей 21 год. She is 21 years old. Then we have Ему 22, 23, 24 года. He or she is 22, 23 or 24 years old. Then Ему or Ей 25 лет. Here it is important because with the help of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 we have separate, like for 1 один, for 2, 3, 4 we have 2, 3, 4 and for 5 we have 5, and when we are using год we have год with один, года with 2, 3, 4 and лет for 5. So here you can also see, now we have the next example, Ему ей 30 лет. Now we are saying that he is or she is 30 years old, and likewise in the last example we are using 40 лет, which means 40 years old. So Ему ей 40 лет. Alright, now let's go ahead and now pay attention to some of the important verbs which we use very oftenly, and let's see them how they are being conjugated. So, as we already know, how do we conjugate? We conjugate with ya, ty, on, ana, мы, вы and ani. Ya means I, ty means you singular, on, ana means he or she, мы means we means you plural, and ani means they. So, we have pisach. Pisach means to write. So, this verb, please pay attention while I will conjugate it for you. Я пишу, ты пишешь, он, она пишет, мы пишем, вы пишете, and они пишут. Likewise, we have another verb with us, учиться. But here the ending of the verb is absolutely different from the ending of pisach. So the conjugation would be different. How do we conjugate verb учиться? Я учусь, ты учишься, он, она учится, мы учимся, вы учитесь, and они учатся. So absolutely different from pisach. So I would also like to recommend you all, the ending of the verbs are very important in order to understand them and conjugate them further. Since we always make sentences with the help of verbs, that is why this concept is one of the most important concepts in Russian grammar. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to a few more such combinations. Here again, let's revise it once again. Pisach and учиться. Я пишу, ты пишешь, он, она пишет, мы пишем, вы пишете, они пишут. And in case of учиться, я учусь, ты учишься, он, она учится, мы учимся, вы учитесь, and они учатся. Okay, so I hope this concept is clear to you now. Let's go ahead and pay attention to a different set of verbs which are very essential in Russian grammar, since they belong to the verbs of motion. So just for a very slight idea, we are going to talk about only a few verbs. For example, in this case we have идти, which means to walk on foot. So я иду, ты идешь, он, она идет, мы идем, вы идете, они идут. And whenever we talk about глаголи движения or the verbs of motion, we have question куда. So this is the basic difference between some of the cases. How do we frame questions? We have separate and specific questions. For example, in the nominative case, we have asked the question кто and что. In prepositional, we have the question где. And in dative, for example, we have кому. But in глаголи движения, we have question куда. And then in this particular case, we have, just for comparison, another verb which is not of the group of глаголи движения, is khachech, which means I want or to want. So when we conjugate with I want. Я хочу, ты хочешь, он, она хочет, мы хотим, вы хотите, они хотят. So here we are comparing them to make you aware the ending of different kind of verbs. However, we are also discussing about them, that how and to which group they belong. So now we will go ahead and pay attention to a kind of a set of words and expressions in a form of a dialogue, so that you understand it properly. We will use most of the expressions we have used in our previous texts. So there is a very important and famous expression which we normally use in Russian is "Дайте мне", "Дайте мне, пожалуйста", or "Give me please", because you will be asking this question while communicating in Russian. So you can also use in the same manner, but pay attention to the construction "Дайте мне". So here we are starting with "Вы дайте мне". So it is with formal communication. We are using "Дайте мне, пожалуйста". If somebody is familiar to you or junior to you or having a very close relation, then you can say "Дай мне, пожалуйста", "Дай мне" instead of "Дайте мне". This is the basic difference how we say, like in example we have done "Здравствуйте" and "Здравствуй". So same is the case here. We have conjugated it like "дай" and "дайте". Magazine is the title of this small dialogue. Please pay attention. Magazine, here we have the preposition "в", which means in. Magazine, magazine means shop, in the shop. У вас есть красный и зеленый карандаш? The person is asking. У вас есть, do you have, красный, which means red, and зеленый, зеленый means green, карандаш. Karandash we already know means pencil, but when combined together it will be plural. У вас есть красный и зеленый карандаши? Then the next person answers, да есть. Yes, I do have, or yes, we have, or yes, simply saying yes, да есть. A синий and a blue one тоже есть, also have. Вот разные. When we use the expression разные means different. Вот разные карандаши. And here is the different pencils. Of course, different colors of pencils or pencils in different colors. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, один красный и один синий карандаш. Give me please one red and one blue pencil. So here you have seen we have used one and then the construction where we are using the adjective ending in krasny and sinny. So krasny karandash, sinny karandash. Okay, so now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the important constructions. Now we will learn about, please pay attention while I pronounce it for you. У вас есть красная шуба? Shuba is a very famous item in Russia. It means red fur coat. So krasnaya shuba, red fur coat. It can be any other color, but shuba in itself is fur coat, which is very popular because of the cold climate. Da, вот она. Yes, here it is. So вот она is basically used for shuba because it belongs to the feminine gender. A черная шуба and a black one тоже есть, also have. Пожалуйста. Here пожалуйста is in connotation of saying thank you. So depending upon the context, you can also replace спасибо with пожалуйста. Okay, so now we will go ahead and pay attention to another form of a dialogue. The title is kiosk. Like we have done magazine, kiosk. Kiosk is a small shop. У вас есть независимая газета? Do you have независимая газета is the name of a newspaper? Да есть, только она не сегодняшняя, а вчерашняя. The person is answering, yes we have, but it is not of today's but of yesterday's. A kakaya svishnaya gazeta was, and which today's newspaper do you have? Moskovskaya Novosti, Moscow Times, the Rossiyskaya Pravda, and the Russian Truth. So these are the title of the newspaper, so called, we have used here, so that you have an idea about the ending of the adjective and the noun, like Moskovskaya Novosti and Rossiyskaya Pravda. So вот они, so here they are. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, Moskovskие Novosti. Give me please the newspaper Moskovskие Novosti, or the Moscow Times. Alright, okay. Now let's go back to the previous part where we have learned more meanings of the colors like krasny, sinny and chorny. So these are the three colors we have talked about in our dialogues. You can also use these colors with any other word depending upon the context, make your own sentences and then kind of a dialogue. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the words which we have used here, like Nezavisimaya Gazeta. So Nezavisimaya Gazeta, here you can see the ending of Nezavisimaya basically agreeing with the ending of the word Gazeta. Likewise, we have Sivatshnaya and Vchirashnaya. So it is also agreeing with the ending of the Gazeta, which is of feminine gender. Then Moskovskие Novosti, it is plural because times. So Moscow Times. So whenever we have certain kind of word or an expression, it always be depending upon the ending of the noun. So that is why we have Moskovskaya Novosti. Then Rossiyskaya Pravda. Here the noun is Pravda and Rossiyskaya is adjective. So Rossiyskaya Pravda. And finally we have seen how do we use Дайте мне, пожалуйста, and you can also use after this спасибо большое, спасибо огромное, or simply saying пожалуйста. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to this particular dialogue. The title of the dialogue we are having here is Na pochte, or at the post office. All these constructions, wherever we are using the predlogs or simply the prepositions va or na, depending upon the context, belongs to the prepositional case or предложный падеж in Russian. The first one, I am going to read it for you. У вас есть марки конверты? Do you have stamps and envelopes? Да, есть. Yes, we do have. Открытки, as we know that in this particular dialogue we have used certain words which exclusively belong to the place, the post office. That is why the title is at the post office or na pochte. So you have already learned a few meanings like marki and конверты. Marki means stamps, конверты means envelope, and открытки. Открытки means greeting cards in Russian. Тоже есть means also have. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, один конверт, 3 открытки и 4 марки. So the person is saying, give me please 1 envelope, 3 открытки means 3 greeting cards, and 4 марки and 4 stamps. Вот, пожалуйста, and here they are. Спасибо. Thank you. So here this is a peculiar case where you can use certain kind of sentences, but the most important aspect of these kind of dialogues that everything we are talking about belongs to that particular place. So whenever you are making your own dialogues or text or simple communications, you must keep that in mind, that all the sentences including the words and verbs must always be making some sentence and in continuity. Okay, so now we will go ahead and pay attention to the next set of dialogue. The title is Doma, means at home. Papa, Natasha, ты хочешь мороженое? So the father is asking Natasha Ty хочешь мороженое? Do you want? Мороженое means ice cream. Natasha, да хочу. Yes, I would like to. Or yes, I want. I want to have. Papa, ты Tanya, тоже хочешь? So, father is asking the other girl, her name is Tanya. А ты, Tanya, тоже хочешь мороженое? So, he is asking Tanya, do you also want to have ice cream? Then the Tanya is answering, да, я тоже хочу мороженое. Yes, I also want to have ice cream. So, here you have seen the construction. So, we have the father asking Natasha first, then Natasha is replying, yes, I want. Then the father is asking Tanya about whether she would like to have ice cream. Then Tanya is also answering, yes, she would also want. So, these kind of construction you can also make. It hardly have 3 to 4 sentences, but it is very useful as far as the information is concerned. It is very useful as far as the construction in a particular setting like at home is concerned. However, you can also replace the names and replace the thing, like in this case we have мороженое. You can also replace it with chai or хлеб or any other thing which you have learned in the previous modules. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to the next dialogue. So, the title of the dialogue we have here is разговор. So it is a talk between two people, мужчина и мальчик. Мужчина, man, and мальчик is boy. Мужчина is asking мальчик, как тебя зовут? Мальчик is replying, меня зовут Sasha. So, in Russia, we use short forms also of the names, like Sasha is for Alexander. So, people say that my name is not fully, not officially. They can also use Sasha in case of this particular case. So, Mushina is asking, сколько тебе лет? How old are you? And Malchik is replying, мне 10 лет. I am 10 years old. Mushina, the person, the man is asking, где ты живешь? Where do you live? Here, if you pay attention to the construction, we have used где, which means where. We have used the verb жить in a conjugated form for ты, which is informal when we ask somebody who is junior or younger to us. So, где ты живешь? Ask the person to the boy. The boy is answering, я живу недалеко. I live not very far. Недалеко. Because in Russian, if you want to say far, you use the expression далеко. But when not far, we use недалеко. Okay? We also have certain other expressions to express that if I don't live far, which means I live nearby. So, we can also say я живу рядом. I live nearby. So, мальчик is replying, я живу недалеко, около метро. So, around metro. A дядя, he is referring to the man as дядя. We have learned about the дядя means uncle. Где вы живете? So, he is replacing it with вы. Дядя вы. With respect, he is asking, где вы живете? That is why the construction changed. Мужчина, the man is answering, я живу далеко, I live far. So, there is a construction of certain sentences where we have seen a разговор or a dialogue or a talk between two people. The one is a man, the other one is a boy of 10 years old. Then there we have seen the construction. The man is using ты because boy is younger, whereas boy is using the construction with we and conjugating the verbs with we, so that it is referring to a person who is senior to him. Then we have seen the verb жить in a conjugated form of ты and вы. Then we have also seen that how to use далеко and недалеко in a particular set of dialogue. Alright, hope this concept where we have talked about age, we have used сколько, where we have used the kind of a construction in a form of ты and вы, and we have used далеко and недалеко is clear to you. Now, let's go ahead and pay attention to this text. As you know that in Russian, cultural information is equally important in order to understand the language. That is why we will be discussing about certain places, certain cities, certain buildings and certain other things which are very popular and traditional in Russia. In this case, we will be talking about Moscow. Moscow, as we know, is the capital of Russia and is a major city and having very colorful atmosphere and tradition and many other things which you will find in this text. So, the title of the text is Moscow or Moskva. Please pay attention. First, I will read it in Russian so that you have a fair idea about the tone and texture of the language, and then we will discuss the text one by one. Москва – это столица России. Это большой и зеленый город. Тут есть высокие, красивые здания, широкие улицы, большие парки и площади. В центре Москвы находится Красная площадь, Кремль и мавзолей Ленина. Как раз находится тут. Москва не только политическая, но и также культурная столица России. So here in the first para we have seen that what kind of things, which are the buildings and what kind of atmosphere, what kind of tradition are there in the capital of Russia, that is Moscow. Okay, now let's go ahead. Тут есть известные музеи, театры, галереи, библиотеки, институты и университеты. Знаменитый Большой театр находится в Москве. Москва довольно древний город. Тут жили и работали великие русские писатели, поэты, драматурги, художники и ученые. Here we are talking about the people who have been very popular in Russia, especially who lived in Moscow. We have also talked about certain buildings which are very famous in Moscow. We shall be discussing in details after completion of the text. Alright, now let's go ahead and complete the text. Москва также крупный промышленный город. Тут есть большие заводы и фабрики. На юго-западе Москвы находится Московский государственный университет МГУ. Это самый крупный университет в России. В Москве есть разные виды транспорта: метро, трамвай, троллейбус, автобус и такси. Однако самый популярный и удобный вид – это метро. So here we have talked about certain important aspects of the Russia, about industry, about certain types of transport and many other things. And we will be discussing in details about this after completion of the text. Now the last pair of the text is Москва – очень современный город. Тут можно увидеть большие универмаги, рестораны, новые иностранные машины. Москвичи очень любят свой город. So here we are saying that it is a very cosmopolitan city where you will find the most modern technology, supermarkets, restaurants and new and latest designs of cars. And finally we are saying that Moscovites love their city very much. So I hope this text you have found very interesting information regarding Moscow, and we will be discussing in details in our upcoming modules. Thank you.